There we go. Hey, everyone. Let me give everybody a second. Let's make sure I get everything set up. We're going to go over listing agreements today. The new listing agreement at that. We can give everybody just a few minutes to be able to get in. Am I recording? Yes. Okay. All right, I'm going to give everybody about one more minute and then we'll get started. All right. I think I got everybody in now. So apologize if it's echoing in here. I'm kind of in a room with no carpet or anything. So everybody hear me okay? Awesome. All right.
Yes.
So today I want to go through listing agreements. Now, obviously, each of you, depending on what board you're in, have different listing agreements. I have the Greater Owensboro Realtor Association listing agreement here. I'm also going to do a video on the HCAR or GLAR listing agreement as well, but we're going to first kick it off with this one because I'll be honest with you, it's the first one I can find. So, but let's go ahead and talk through it. And I'm going to use my pointer to kind of point things out. I'm going to go through this in a lot of detail, like almost line by line, just to make sure that everybody understands everything. But most importantly, I want to convey to you what you put in any location, according to stay legal and to provide, obviously, the most amount of information as possible. So I'll go through it all and then I'll open it up for questions at the end. So first and foremost, this agreement is made between blank, hereinafter called the seller. So this is going to be who owns the home. Now, one key thing here is you do need to have all the owners of the home in here, which meaning if it's a husband and wife, if it's an LLC and 3 people own it, whatever the case may be, you need to have everybody who is basically on the deed written into this agreement. The second line, it says, and blank, hereinafter called broker. This is not your name. I know a lot of agents that will put, Matt Brown, for example. This actually needs to be Keller Williams Elite. Just keep in mind, all listings are with the brokerage as individual agents, not having broker's license. We can't actually list homes. We list everything under the broker. Of course, we're allowed to work it and all of that stuff. So then you have on lines 4 and 5, and by the way, when I'm referencing lines, I'm looking at these numbers. You have 2 options here, and you need to pick which one. If you check this first box, line 4, it says the date of agreement is set forth herein and is acknowledged by such as the seller's signature, date, and time below. Which, if you check this box, it basically means that you are making the listing active, effective the second the seller signs. So if they sign today at 8:32 p.m., this agreement's effective at that time. The second box, which is line 5, and you would check this box, you can put in a certain day, time, month, and year. So 8 a.m. On the 4th day of September 2024, due to the following reasons requested by the sellers. Now, it is important that this is a seller requested because we're supposed to put everything active at the time of the agreement unless the seller has a reason to do so. A couple of reasons that I see most often, especially with my sellers, is getting the home ready for photos, because we know we're going to do professional photography, so we need a little bit of time to get ready, or we just need time to get the photographer in there as well. So you would write that out. So you would check this box, again, put date, time, and year, and then what's the reason, prepping home for listing, prepping the home for photos, things along those lines. The effective date shall also be considered the effective date of advertising unless otherwise stated in this agreement. So if you check this box, you can instantly advertise it in every way, shape, or form. Social media, things like that. If you check this box, you do have to wait until this day or time in order to be able to advertise it. Also, keep in mind that from the time that this date and time in here, you have 24 hours to get it put into the MLS and make it active. Excuse me, one business day, I should say, not 24 hours. One. So if this goes active today, I can start advertising it on social media. I just have to put it in the MLS tomorrow. So that's a really important timing thing. I see people get turned in. I happen to be on the MLS committee at this board. And this is probably the number one thing I see people get turned in for. They started advertising either before this agreement was effective, or they didn't put it inside the MLS in the time period that they should have. All right. And then it says, witness, in consideration of the mutual covenants and agreements herein contained, said parties hereby mutually covenantly agree to the fall. That's just a really fancy way for saying, here's what we're doing as listing agent and seller. Here is what we're agreeing to. And it says that the broker agrees to list for sale and undertake and find buyers for real estate owned by sellers and described hereinafter. And then next is you're going to put how long are you allowed to list the property. So sellers grants and gives broker sole and exclusive right to sell the property. You can't have it listed with multiple agents. It's exclusive to you as an agent until midnight on the blank day. So just making up time, 15th month of January 2025. Now, if you cross over the year, please make sure that you do put 2025 on this. Also, if you make a mistake and write 2024, say you do the extension till, or the it's listed until January 15th of 2025, you write 2024. If you cross through that, or if you write over top of the 4 with a 5, any change is called an above the line change. Any change that you make, both you and the sellers must initial date and time next to that change to basically notify everybody that this change was made and that everybody agreed to it. So just wanted to throw that little caveat in there. Next is the price. What price are you listing it for? You write out the price in numerical form, meaning $299,900.00 for cents, and then you write out what that is. So here you would just spell out $299,900. Full address, pretty simple, just what the address for the property is. Further description. So this, where I always put here, is what type of property is it? So is it a single family residence? Is it commercial? Is it land? Is it farm? Is it a duplex? You want a description that kind of describes what type of property that you're selling. For 95% of you, it's going to just be single family residence. Personal property included in the sale. This is all of appliances. This can be storage buildings, basically anything that is considered personal property, not fixtures, because fixtures are covered a little bit later on. You can kind of put them both in here, but most of the time you're going to see appliances, garage door openers, things along those lines. Sometimes we'll see blinds, even though technically that's a fixture. But this is where it's basically everything that you're going to leave. Now, I will say this, no matter what you put on here, the offer supersedes this, meaning even if you put on here that the refrigerator does not go with the property, but the offer comes in and asks for the refrigerator and the seller sign it, they're on the hook for leaving that refrigerator. So just double check your offers and things on that line. Next is the term real estate shall be used to all permanently attached fixtures and accessories, except the sellers reserve the right to remove the following items. If they are going to remove something, if they have a bush or a plant that's dear to them, if they have a play set, if they have a play set is considered a fixture, by the way, if they have surround sound that's mounted to the walls and they're going to take it with them, that must be listed inside here. And then again, it must be listed in the purchase agreement as well. Okay. So now that's pretty much the simple stuff. I think most of you know most of that, but now we get into the commission paragraph. And I do want each of you to actually read through this paragraph in great detail. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of highlight some key points inside of it. The first thing is, what is the commission? Total commission. So the way this is written right now, it's total commission. This is not just your side. So again, since we're publishing this publicly, I'm not going to mention any commission numbers, but you will put the total commission. How much are you charging for listing the house, and how much is the seller willing to compensate any buyers that may bring buyers to be able to buy the house, or X% of the sales price, or you can put in a flat fee. Where a flat fee comes into play, where I see it most at least, is if there's a property maybe under $50,000, say you're selling a house for $25,000. Well, instead of saying X% of $25,000, you may just put in a flat fee of, hey, it's going to be $3,000 regardless of what the price is. So you can either set a percentage or you can set a dollar amount. Just keep in mind, here's the key part, that it is total commission. And that it is due at closing. So that is the next statement here. It says that it is due at closing. Goes on and again, read through rest of this, but it talks about what the total commission is and how it is earned. So for example, the total commission is earned upon a broker finding a buyer who is ready, willing, and able to complete the purchase in the terms and conditions set forth in the purchase agreement, but is subject to any contingency. So basically saying that, hey, if you have if I bring you a buyer or another agent brings a buyer, however, we find a buyer for your home that's willing to pay satisfactory terms to you, then I'm going to get paid this commission. It also says, and this is a key thing, in the event the property or any part thereof is sold within blank days of termination or expiration of this agreement to any buyer who showed the property, then the seller owes the commission. So basically what this means, typically people are going to put in around 60 days is what I see the most. That's what I personally put in. But basically if somebody comes and shows the home while I have it listed, and then let's say the listing expires next month, that buyer comes and makes an offer directly to you, I am still entitled to commission if I'm within this 60-day window, because I am the procuring cause of why, not the procuring cause, but I am the reason they showed it while it was listed with me. They would have never bought the home had you not had it listed to me. I still earn the commission. So no, this is the time period that protects you after the listing agreement ends, basically. And then the very last part is the administrative fee. So right in here, you're going to write in what's your administrative fee. So in our case, you're going to put in $225 or $250. And then what are the following services? On this line, I just put administrative fee. I do see some people put some different stuff, and it's totally fine. You can put anything you want. You can put document retention, things like that. But all I'm putting on there is administrative fee. And then that will suffice. Then the next paragraph is, and I'm going to talk about the highlighted part first. The broker and seller acknowledge and agree the commission set forth in this paragraph is not established by law, statute, and regulations of any governing body and or agency. Rather, the parties acknowledge and agree the commission is set forth and is entirely negotiable between the parties. So that's basically saying that even though we agreed to a total commission amount here, it is fully negotiable between the buyer and seller. And then it goes on to say that you are allowed to put a for sale sign. So you can see that right here. It goes on to say that you can remove any other signs that are on the property. And it also says that you are allowed to accept earnest money. So there's a lot in this paragraph. Most important things. Commission's always negotiable. You can put a for sale sign out and remove any other sale signs, and you can take a earnest money. It also talks about that if the buyer were to default, this is key because a lot of people don't know this, but if the buyer were to default, then the amount of the earnest money shall be divided equally between the sellers and the broker, but in no event should the broker's portion exceed the commission they would have received. So for example, if you take a $10,000 earnest money and it works out for whatever reason that the seller and all parties agree the seller keeps the earnest money, well, you get to keep 5,000 of that should you choose to do that. And we are encouraging you to do that because you're incorporating costs. Now we do have to run it through like commission and all of that fun stuff. But just so you know, you are entitled to half of that amount. It just can't be more than what your total commission was. So if you were going to make $5,000, or let's just say you were going to make $3,000 in commission based on this top line, but this earnest money is $10,000, meaning you're going to get half of it. You can't take more than what you would have earned overall. Just a kind of little footnote. And then, of course, everybody signs dates and times at the bottom. Page 2, which is over here on this left-hand side. I don't know why mine's showing 2 pages.
Hey, Matt.
Page 2 is, oh, Jamie, do you have a question?
Yeah, before you go forward, I have a question on what you were just talking about because I'm a bit confused there. So the earnest amount, like if they decide to like back out of the deal,
Correct.
like receive.
You have to get them to agree to leave it with the seller. So if, let's say that the buyers back out because of financing. Well, in the purchase agreement, it says earnest money goes back to the buyer. So this is only if the seller is willing to keep the money, or has the right to keep the money, I should say.
And so if the seller has the right to keep the money, we would receive the percentage of what our commission would be. Nothing greater than that.
Correct. You receive 50%. It just can't be more than whatever your total commission would have been.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And of course, I would say this, if you don't have this conversation at the listing appointment and explain this to them, don't try to go get it because they're going to be like, what? And if you're like, oh yeah, read your listing agreement, it's just going to discredit you. So just make sure you go over this paragraph in detail. And again, it's negotiable, for sale sign, and you're allowed to collect earnest money, and that half the earnest money goes to you if that happens. Yep. All right, now page 2. Next is line 43. Sellers agree to surrender possession to said property to buyers. Negotiable. Just put negotiable. You don't need, even if it's a vacant home and they get it at closing, put negotiable because it always comes down to the offer. All right. So just a quick, easy thing. Just make sure you put negotiable on that line. And it's understood here. It just says what board you're part of. If you're using this agreement, obviously you're part of GORA, Greater Owensboro Multiple Listing Service. And it says that you have to provide timely status change in the MLS. As you all know, that's a 48-hour rule. That the sales information includes the selling price of the property, and additionally, that we participate in a data exchange program, website, all that. This is IDX, by the way, if you've ever heard that term. This is basically saying that we're going to allow it to syndicate to all the other websites that we have. Sellers agree that broker may cooperate with other brokers, real estate license, sub-license, dual career, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we're going to cooperate with other people. My guess is they're going to take that cooperation word out because really it's more compensation than cooperation at this point. Y'all have heard me talk about that exhaustively, I'm sure. But in this next section is where we're going to talk about dividing the compensation. So remember, in that first section, we put the total commission. And this section is where we're going to put what the buyer's side commission is that the seller seller is willing to compensate a buyer's agent. So it says if the buyer is represented by a cooperating broker, real estate license, sub-license, disclosed dual license, buyer broker, transaction broker, and or licensed realtor, basically any way you could transact with one of us, the broker is authorized to share the commission with the said cooperating broker, real estate license, blah, 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 all that stuff. Again, the amount compensation offered to the individual or said individuals will be X% of the selling price or blank in the total commission. So here's where you're going to state what the seller is willing to compensate any buyer's agent, either by a percentage or in a flat number. It's one or the other. And keep in mind, any line that you don't fill out. So if you put a percentage here, you should put a strike through this number here as well. Just to make sure that basically we don't want to leave any blanks on contracts. Just no blanks is the mental thing to remember. Keep in mind also, this is fully negotiable at the time of offer. So you might write in X%, whatever that is, and then you get an offer and the seller's like, hey, based on this offer, I'm only willing to offer X%. And it's a different number, right? That's totally okay. Everything's negotiable. It can change at any given time. This is just, hey, here's where we're starting is what I want y'all to think about. This next section is for condominium sales only. You only fill this out if you are selling a condo. And it basically, if you sell a condo, you have to have a condominium seller certificate. That's state law. It is required. If any of you go to sell a condo, just let us know. We can connect you with the condo owner. Well, you would connect with the condo owners to be able to get that. We can provide blank copies if needed. But if you're not selling a condo, then you're just going to put NA on these. Because remember, no blanks. We don't want to leave anything blank. So if it doesn't apply, you just put NA on it. Then next here, and don't worry, we're almost done. This isn't a really difficult document. It says next that the broker is acting in capacity of the seller's license. However, the sellers, especially now as the listing broker, may also represent buyers. Here's your dual agency, right? So there is a chance that you could represent the seller and the buyer at the same time. That's called dual agency. You do have certain things that you have to act. So it says right here, listing broker, which may act in a way that will not interfere with either party's rights, interests, or otherwise influence the party's actions or decisions connected with this transaction. So it just basically says that, hey, I'm going to treat everybody fairly. I'm not going to disclose to the buyer or the seller any information that would put them in an adverse situation or put them at a disadvantage. You have to treat everybody fairly. And then this last paragraph from line 70 to 76 here, this talks about advertising laws. So there's certain advertising laws. You all know that if you post something on your personal Facebook page, it needs to say marketed by Keller Williams Elite or Keller Williams Heartland or whichever Keller Williams that you're part of. And it has to have like your fair housing, all of that stuff. You're going to write your name right here. So licensee name, Matt Brown, if it's me or you'll put your name here. Hereby lets the seller know that advertising published by me or by the sellers of our must include the real estate company or the name of the principal broker and the designation of their principal broker. Just put our real estate company name, Keller Williams Elite, Keller Williams Heartland. Don't put Kelly's name. Just keep it really simple. Further advise sellers that failure to include company name or principal broker's name constitutes a license law violation by me and will subject to me to discipline and fines by the KREC. So basically what I tell people when I get to this part of the listing agreement is I say, hey, if you want something made, whether it's social media, whether it's a bulletin board at your church or work or whatever, let me make it so I can make sure it's legal. Let me make sure that the Keller Williams Elite or Keller Williams Heartland logo is on there as well as the other stuff that needs to be on there. And that way you're covered. Just don't let them create stuff and you're pretty much covered, because if they create it and post it to social and you get turned in, guess what? You're going to be the one that gets the fine, not them. So make sure you can control all your advertising. And then fair housing statement just says that the seller and broker agree to not discriminate in any way, shape, or form. Then we put in additional terms. So right in here, if it's contingent upon finding suitable housing, if, whatever those additional terms are, there's a million different things that this is the section that you would fill that out. And then the last section, and I always get this filled out. I don't really pull it all the time, I'll be honest, but I get it filled out, is who's your mortgage lender, and then they initial date and time that basically allows you to obtain mortgage information. So when I first got started, I used to do this a lot because we were in a different environment and people didn't have equity and there were short sales and stuff like that. So we would always pull it. Nowadays, I just ask the question. And if you're not close, then I'm not worried about it. If you're close, then I'm going to pull your mortgage information. Next section is for utility information. You can actually just write NA on that. We have our own separate utility request form. You are more than welcome to use this. And if you do use it, then you would write in the address and then you would have them, of course, initial date and time. They're going to sign all of this. And then the last section on 86 and lines 86 and 87 is allowing you to put a block box on it. So they're going to check do put a block box or do not. Those are your two options, obviously. And it says that the MLS will be placed on the property and the MLS lockbox system has been explained to the seller, executed on this day and year, hereby written, and then everybody signs. Now, I want to explain this part real quick because I see a lot of people confused on this. Listing broker is Keller Williams Elite or Heartland, whatever the name of your brokerage is. By listing license, here's where you're going to write your name. So Matt Brown, and then listing license signature, here's where I'm going to sign my name, and then I'm going to date and time it. So brokerage name, your signature, date and time that you signed. Seller name, seller signature, phone. I'll be honest with y'all, I cross through this, just light a dash. I don't put my phone number. I don't put seller's phone number. I don't put seller's email address on there. I already have that information. I don't need it at this point, but they do have to date and time it. And then everybody that signs dates and times. And then the final, in addition to your initials down at the bottom, would be that this basically that says that you have received, that this is a contract and you have received a copy of this, that you have also filled out the guide to agency, the agency consent form, and seller disclosures, and if applicable, your lead-based paint disclosure. So it basically outlines to them, here's all the documents you should have signed. And yes, you do have to get a consumer guide. Yes, you do, or a guide to agency relationships. They changed the name of it and I can't ever remember the new name. Guide to agency relationships, the agency consent, the seller disclosures, and if it was built prior in 1978 or before, then you need to get the lead-based paint as well. And then they all sellers need to initial date and time here, as well as at the bottom of every page, like they always do. So that's how you fill out a form. The most important thing that I wanted to, and the reason I wanted to go over this form is paragraph here, line number 23, total commission. When we get to the second page on line number 59, this is what the seller is offering buyers. Total commission, buyer side. Just if you write that out, then you're perfectly good to go. So that's how you do a listing agreement. Quick, down and dirty, but wanted to explain what each paragraph means so that you can articulate that to your clients. And now I'm going to stop the recording and I'll open it.